Wrapping up the official dog days of summer come this Friday, but Kentucky hasn't seen the typical warm or hot weather.
Yeah, First Alert meteorologist Alexa Minton is breaking down the origins of the dog days and what Kentucky has actually felt this year in terms of temps.
The dog days of summer are almost over. Formally, the dog days last from July 3rd through August 11th and usually refer to a time where we see the hottest temperatures of the year.
In a typical year, you're going to see highs close to 90 degrees, maybe beyond that, and a very high level of humidity.
Meteorologist Jim Caldwell says Kentucky recorded temperatures in the lower to mid-90s late this July, but the extreme heat missed the bluegrass.
We have been on the cusp. We've been right there on the edge of some of the hottest temperatures in the country. They've been out in the plains, they've been out in, of course, the Southwest, but we've been right there on the fringe. And we continue to see some of the cooler air moving in from out of the Northeast, which is not a typical flow for us.
In the peak of summer, the sun lies in the same portion of the sky as a star called Sirius. The star happens to be a part of the famous constellation Canis Major, a constellation of a dog. Hence the name, the dog days of summer was born. Centralized the 20 days before and after the star Sirius peaks in the sky. So while the dog days for Kentucky have felt cooler this year, there's always next year.
Yeah, anybody that's lived in Kentucky for a long enough period of time, they know how steamy it can get.
In Lexington, Alexa Minton, WKYT.